Mudakarata modakam sadavi mukti sadakam kaladharavatamsakam vilasi lokarakshakam. Ganesha holds a divine fragrant sweet in his lower left hand, and he joyfully grants the gift of salvation to all his devotees. How do you and I get to taste a little bit of this sweetness of salvation? Namaste. I am Sunder Iyer. Welcome to KYG Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam.
Om Ganganapataye Namaha.
In today's episode, we shall explore the symbolism and the significance of the lower left hand of Ganesha, where he holds a sweet, a dish that is known as modaka in India. And the chant that I said earlier was composed by Adi Shankara hundreds of years ago, where he says Ganesha holds in his hand the sweetness of salvation that he grants to his devotees. Salvation sounds like a very big word, a very abstract word, but it is simply freedom from all limitations, freedom from pain, freedom from sorrow, freedom from confusion and doubt. Just freedom, the sweetness of freedom. Freedom where there are no more boundaries, no more limitations, an ever-expanding horizon of possibilities and achievements. Is it really possible? In the teachings of Sanathana Dharma, in Vedanta, it is absolutely possible. It all depends to how much we have and how much can we contain in our little bag, our backpack that we are carrying in this journey. But guess what? Why don't we taste the sweetness that Ganesha has in his hand? It is simply because as travelers in this life's journey and the journeys that we have done many lifetimes in many forms, we have filled our backpacks. Let us take this lifetime for example, something we can all relate to. We carry our backpack and the backpack is full. Our hands are full of little glitter and gold, little trashes that we have collected over a period of time, little bit at a time. So they are not heavy, but then they fill up the bag, they fill up our hands. And as we go along carrying that same weight through life, the weight slowly begins to become a burden that weighs us down. And therefore we begin to shape our lives, shape our thoughts, shape our actions based on what we are able to carry. And as we grow older and go into this journey of life deeper and deeper and more experiences, more and more memories, more and more little burdens that we begin to carry, then our capabilities become even more narrower and narrower and narrower. And thus we begin to live inside a prison wall of limited definitions, limited achievements, limited capability of understanding what is joy, and then salvation becomes a very distant memory, a faint possibility, and in the worst case, it just becomes a religious belief. If only our hands were empty to receive the sweet, but our hands were full of trash that we carry. Our bags are full of grievances, burdens, and memories of experiences that are no longer really required, that we carry. So when Ganesha is giving the sweet, we have no place to receive it. We have no way to receive it. The deepest part of our subconscious mind is connected to the universal abundance. There are no boundaries, there are no limitations. Anything and everything is possible in the universal law. But then because we have filled our backpack here that we carry the burden on our back, the burden of the past, events of the past, memories of the past. and our hands are filled, there is absolutely no room for us to receive this divine sweet that Ganesha is so lovingly holding to give us. So from the depths of our subconscious, the riches that can flow into our conscious mind, into our thoughts and express themselves, find their expressions as manifestations in our life, that passage is blocked. And that is why many of us do not get to taste the sweetness of salvation. Because once you taste it, your life changes. There is nothing else that will attract you in this world. You will be directly, effortlessly guided in the footsteps of the divine, and every footstep will take you to higher and higher planes of consciousness, existence, oneness, love, and so on. So what can we do to empty our backpack? What can we do to empty our minds? What can we do to cleanse our hands so that we become empty? We empty our cup and we are able to receive the sweetness of salvation, the divine knowledge that He has in that hand of His that He wants to give us. Because on the one hand, we have learned how we can purify our subconscious, how we can feed our subconscious and so on. But we mustn't forget the act of divine grace, and this hand symbolizes divine grace. So there is no technique there. We simply have to empty our minds to receive divine grace. And that divine grace, the ability to shower that grace, the ability to bring salvation and freedom from illness and sorrow and pain and delusion and all of the little things that bind us, that ability is within us. And the deepest energy within us is ready to grant it, because His hand is stretched out and the sweetness is placed on His hand already. He is holding it for us to receive, but we are not able to receive. So the question comes, so what do we do? How do we empty our cup? There is one word that comes to my mind, and I have nurtured it over the last many years and months, and that word is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgiveness has that power to empty the cup, to cleanse our hands, to open the possibility of receiving this divine gift, to make us worthy of receiving this divine sweet laddu or modaka that Ganesha has in his hand. The word forgiveness is perhaps a very common word. We forgive our children, we forgive our spouse, we sometimes forgive ourselves, and we say, oh yeah, I got it. What is so big deal about forgiveness? Think of an event in your life where a person or an event happened and it caused pain to you. A person caused pain to you. Go back to that memory. Does that memory bring back pain, bring back sorrow, or bring back anger, or some form of resentment? Or think of an event where you made a mistake. Go back to that event. Maybe a word that you misspoke or an act that you did you really regret. Go back. Does that raise the feelings in the pashyanti level that we spoke about a few episodes before? Para pashyanti, emotion and feelings. What is the level of vibrations when that memory comes back to your mind? Is there resentment? Is there guilt in your feeling? Is there a sense of anger in your feeling? Is there a sense of envy or all of this? If that exists, then know that you haven't forgiven yourself or forgiven that person. Forgiveness is an easy word to speak, perhaps an easy word to even understand. But it is an extremely difficult thing to practice. The Gita says that one who forgives is godly in nature. In chapter 16, I think it's stanza 3, that Krishna talks about various qualities of one who is godly, and forgiveness, kshama, is one of them. One who is godly has the capacity to forgive. Forgive not only others, but forgive himself or herself. Why is it so important for us to forgive? What is this law of forgiveness that we have to pay so much attention to? And how do you know it empowers us? I can think of two examples when I think of forgiveness that has made these two characters in our religion, if you will, or in the spiritual path, the examples, role models, if you will, that these two people, eternal and immortal. One is Jesus. At the height of pain and suffering that was caused unto him, acts that can never be justified by anyone. He could have easily pointed fingers, but even at that moment of extreme pain when he was crucified and dying on the cross, he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." He had the ability to forgive. To me, that's a big thing, very big thing. And therefore, he is my role model for forgiveness. The other example of forgiveness is Ganga. Ganga, where the river Ganges is named after her, Ganga flows from the top of Shiva's head. Shiva is the supreme energy. So in the symbolization of Shiva, Ganga is given a place from the top, the crown of his head. He has this matted hair, and from the top of the matted hair comes this eternal flow of the Ganges. Ganga is symbolized as a feminine energy. She constantly, her divine nature is to simply forgive. And that is why people bathe in the Ganges river, to get their sins washed away. Why? Because Ganga forgives. So the role models, the symbolism of forgiveness is not likely taken in any religion. Two of these religions I'm familiar with, so I'm keep quoting from both of them. And I'm sure there are other religions who also talk about this. Forgiveness has such an important place in the Sanathana Dharma. The crown of Shiva's head is where Ganga sits. And Ganga has the capacity, and Ganga's very nature is to forgive you unconditionally, no questions asked. So forgiveness flows from the top of the head of the highest consciousness. In other words, when you are raising a level of vibrations, raising the level of your consciousness, opening your doors to this divine manifestation of Ganesha, an energy that will flow through you, should flow through you. That is the energy of forgiveness. And it is that forgiveness that will help us empty our cups. Because the moment I am able to forgive, that moment I am able to let go of that one little burden that I am carrying with me. Like I said, if that exists in my memory, and that memory is simply a memory without affecting my emotions at any level, it is just a memory from which I learned a lesson. The lesson comes to me, the event has passed by, the person has passed by, I have no more anger, resentment, completely my conscience is clear, my vibrations remain unaffected. Only I will know that, right? I can tell people, oh, I have forgiven that person, I'm not affected. But you have to ask yourself, in the depths of your meditation in silence, go back to that memory, and if that memory is clean, then that memory is no longer a burden. It could be a memory because a lesson is learned and the lesson stays, right? But that memory no longer is a burden. It no longer affects the emotional level of vibration. So forgiveness becomes an extremely important practice that we have to. It has to become our very nature. And that's why Baba would often say, love gives and forgives. So if we had the law of giving yesterday, today we understand the law or the secret of forgiving, discovering the sweetness of salvation through forgiveness. And to me, forgiveness is the only one that can open the Sahasrara because it's symbolized in the top of Shiva's head. That is how I understand it. That is how I pay attention to each of these symbols and try and interpret them in the way I can relate to, because the nature of that water is cleansing of sins, and cleansing of sins means freeing us from guilt. Freeing us of guilt means forgiveness. That's how, and that is at the top of Shiva's head. And so forgiveness is the energy that will help us taste the sweetness of salvation. In the law of the subconscious mind, in the power of the subconscious mind, we have understood now through the previous episodes that we have talked about, or trying to understand, if I may, that whatever we put into the universe means whatever we put into our subconscious. There is really no difference between the subconscious and the universe. Okay, we think we are putting it out there to a god, offering to a god. We are actually offering to our subconscious, because in subconscious he is the one who receives it and opens the doors for all the divinity to manifest. So when we offer, whatever we offer into the subconscious manifests back to us. The sounds that we create, the acts that we do, all of that. So when I don't forgive somebody and I hold on to the bitterness, resentment, anger, maybe even envy, jealousy, lack of forgiveness gives rise to a multitude of emotions. Anger, resentment bitterness being the prominent ones. When I do that, when I don't forgive somebody else, then the law, the energy that I'm sending into the subconscious is that I cannot forgive somebody else for their mistake, and therefore my mistakes cannot also be forgiven. Because I'm sending a law into my subconscious. In other words, I'm offering a law the divine always says tathastu, so be it, right? So I'm sending a law to the universe saying mistakes cannot be forgiven. That's the law that is getting established in your consciousness and my consciousness when I do not forgive. It does not matter whether I'm not forgiven somebody else or forgiven myself. The idea that I cannot forgive simply means that none of my acts and my mistakes can also be forgiven. And so I begin to pay a heavy price, and I get caught in the acts and the cause and effect of those acts. I cannot get freedom. I cannot get salvation from my acts. I cannot get freedom from my karma, because I begin to own my acts. I begin to own the memories of these acts. I begin to ascribe acts to X, Y, Z. She did this to me. He did that to me. He spoke this to me. That person did this. Oh my God, I did this when I was 5 years old, or I shouldn't have spoken like this to my mother yesterday, or I shouldn't have done this to her yesterday, or that. All of that guilt, resentment, bitterness, anger, all of that become huge burdens, small little things, small little burdens at a time, but they collect together like a sack of potatoes, and you carry these bag of potatoes, and over a period of time they become so rotten that it's foul smelling, but then we are carrying them with us. And they prevent us to see beyond that. When I was living with my beloved Guru, Sri Satya Sai Baba, he would just not encourage us to feel guilty or ask sorry too many times. The more we felt guilty, the more angry he would be actually. He would say, stop it. Stop it. You have done the act. You're finished, you have felt sorry, done. Be done with the past is past, forget the past, he would say with very powerful sternness. And these are not just quotes of his, these are conversations with me. I can vouch for it personally. When I had said sorry more than once, he said, enough. Why do you go on and on and on about the past? It's over, move on. Don't carry that with you in your head. He would visibly get irritated, if you will, simply because it would pain him to see somebody carrying this unnecessary burden of an event that has already happened in the past, that is gone. Why are we carrying it with us? Do we truly have the capacity, or have we truly forgiven people, and have we forgiven ourselves? This is a very important question that we need to ask. And we need to go dig inside as much as possible, bring out event after event, and people after people in our lives and our own selves primarily, and we have to go through this purification process, go through this fire of forgiveness. It's not easy task, but once we are able to forgive, then we become lighter and lighter. And we talked about vibrating at a higher frequency. Then the higher frequency vibrations automatically begin to happen, and then we begin to go into this law of receiving. Then we begin to receive the sweetness that flows in from the depths of the subconscious, from the core of the universe, from the bosom of the Divine Mother Shakti, the Mother of Ganesha. From that divine bosom, spiritual nutrition comes. Jesus became eternal because of that ability to love and forgive. Ganga is eternal because of her ability to forgive and cleanse. This is the most important lesson that I take home. So, on these holy days of Ganesha, as we meditate and pray to him on an everyday basis, examine this power within you, the power to forgive. Has that power diminished? It probably has, and it's okay. I am working on my power. And it is a power that it's like a small candle once lit. We have to keep it burning throughout, because life goes on, journey goes on, events go on. We will commit mistakes, others will commit mistakes. We could be a victim of somebody's plot or somebody's conniving, some evil act. We could be a victim. All that is effects of our own acts in the past, but nevertheless, at that moment, am I able to forgive? Let the law do its justice. If somebody has robbed your home, call the police and let the police take the robber to the jail and let the law do. But in your heart, can you forgive? Can we truly, truly forgive those who hurt us, those who robbed us? Can we truly forgive ourselves so we can rise above guilt and not hold on to the past? That letting go, that release, liberating yourself from those little ties will actually give you a taste of liberation that Ganesha has in his hand. That salvation is not something that has to come someday. Oh my God, I don't know when I'll get liberated, and we complicate it and think it is something after death. No, it has to be when we are alive. How do we taste that? When I liberate myself from these little things that weigh me down, when I empty my cup from all bitterness in my mind. What happened when you and I were 2-year-olds? Look at a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old child. This little child has no shame. He or she walks around in her big diapers. They have no ability to communicate intelligently, if you will. They just do ba ba, boo boo, and they drool. They don't know manners. They don't know shame. They just go with anybody and everybody. There is no hesitation, there is no fear, there is no sorries, and there is no thank yous. And yet, what do you tell the child? The child is so sweet. A child is always sweet that he holds in his hand. The sweetness of innocence. What is the child? Why is he so sweet? The child is sweet because the child is free from shame, free from anger, free from guilt. Yes, the child gets angry when you snatch, but then the next moment the child laughs when you make a face and you dance around it. The child is going to start laughing. Where does the anger go? There is no burden that it carries with us saying, no, I'm not going to laugh at your jokes because you hurt me. 2 minutes ago, you took away my toy. Easily the child instantly forgets that moment and comes to the next moment. The child lives in the moment, fresh. You and I were there, right? So we have it within us. We have somewhere deep within us our little child that has been covered by learnings, and we have learned to accumulate. accumulate burdens, and we carry those burdens. Can we go back to being that innocent child? And that sweetness of the child is the sweetness of liberation, because the child is free from all these other limitations that you and I have learned to gather in our lives. So, my dear brothers and sisters, meditate and contemplate on the powerful yet difficult energy called the energy of forgiveness. It is a divine energy that will open the gates of grace from within us, and Ganesha will begin to feed us with his hand. With his own hands, he will feed us the gift of salvation, liberation, freedom from everything that binds us down. Mudakarata modakam, sada vimukti sadakam, kala dharava tamsakam vilasi loka rakshakam. And thus he will protect us. Thank you as always for watching. Stay blessed, stay inspired. Namaste.
ॐ गं गणपतये नमः।